In this tutorial, you will learn how to weave a circle. This is part of a weaving series of weaving shapes on the loom, so be sure to check out the other videos and learn how to weave other shapes. So let's get started. There are a few ways to start before you make your circle. The first thing you have to do is find something circular, and I'm just going to use the bottom here of a yogurt container. And one way you could do this is, I just have this red pen, but you can use like a black or a water soluble pen, or a pen that can be erased in water if you like. But you could take a pen and then trace the circular form around it, all the way around on the loom, on the warp. But again, you probably want to find a shape that's going to fit the width of your warp. So here and droop, if that's what you want. The way that I'm going to do is I like to use like a piece of cardstock or paper, and like a thicker paper. It's not super thin, but it's not very thick either, but it's enough that it can be bent and still keep its form. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just go ahead and trace the outline of the circle. Okay. You can see here's the outline, and then I'm going to cut it out, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back with the circle. It's not perfect, but it's perfect enough. All right, so here I'm going to kind of line it up to what I want. So here I have 3 warp yarns, and I want it to be as centered as possible. So I'm going to do it just like this, these 3. So that's how I know I can keep it there. And I'm going to try to keep it in the same place. So what I like to do here is, well, normally I would like to start with a base. So I'm going to weave here a base, and then I'm going to keep this in place and maybe just do something like this, kind of hold it in place with the other warp yarns, and kind of try to secure it a little bit like that. And then I could weave around it. That's this technique that I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and weave the base here, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I have it in place now, and I have a base. It's good. I think it's good to start at least with a base of a few rows of plain weave, and then I'm going to go ahead and start. So by just following the first row here, it looks like this section right here, I could do 1 row of plain weave probably until this one here, and then it'll be in place. So right there. Okay. So all I'm doing on this is just following the shape of the circle. Go back. Okay. I'm looking at the next one right there. So let's get knotted a little bit. Okay, and so looks like maybe I'll just go ahead and keep going with this one, the next go in one. Now you are going to continue following this method, so just follow the curved form, and this really does come down to trial and error. Like when you're weaving this and building the side or the curve of the circle, you just want to be careful and just pay attention to the curve and the shape, if it actually needs 1 row or 2 rows of weft in each connected to each warp yarn. So that's something really to pay attention to. Another thing to pay attention to is the template itself. if you look carefully here on the left side, I'm on the edge of the warp. So I had to go back and correct all of this. And here on the right, I'm having a really nice technique, right? I'm following the curvature of the circle, and it's going really well. I'm slowly building the design, and it's looking really great. It's so much that I'm not even paying attention to the edge until like moments later, and I realized I've made a mistake and I had to go back and redo everything. So you can see here I'm finally realizing. So this is important, and so this is really the basis of weaving a circle. Keep the template center and follow the curvature of the circle. And I have a few tips for you for weaving a circle, and yeah, they will follow in just a moment. It's important to mark the center of the warp, or at least the center placement of the circle, to make sure that it's even on all sides. I like to just mark the center with a piece of yarn and then work out and count the warp out before. Now, ideally, you should calculate the warp yarns and ends before you start weaving, but if it's kind of spontaneous, then, you have to go as it is. That when there's the geometry, when they're geometrical and symmetrical, they should be of equal distance, right, from each point. So for creating the circle, and theoretically, if this is completely the same, then following the path of the way from here. So theoretically, if you weave 1/4, if you copy this and weave 1/4 of it, you should be able to replicate it on the other parts. You just have to mirror them, right? For me, the most effective way is by building by each quarter and then mirroring onto each side. But the problem that I've run into is that I forget how many rows are in each warp thread. And it can be kind of confusing when you have a lot of warp threads, and sometimes the weft yarns, it can be confusing if you have a lot of weft yarns, and if you have a lot of ends in rows, it can kind of get confusing. So what I found the best method for me was taking notes on each warp thread. So here I've mapped out from the center to the last yarn. So there are 14 rows of warp, and then I'm just marking the yarns or the rows that have the weft yarns, and then the other ones that don't, and just marking how many are in each row. And this has really helped me a lot. If you like, I could leave you a link down into my a link to the mapping that I did, and how many yarns I used, and a plan to help you make a circle. Now, the next step I have for you is to build up the circle from one corner or one edge at a time, or 1/4 at a time. The problem that I ran into here was that I was still building the circle on the right side, and I wasn't so like the pattern or the design wasn't so right yet. So I encourage you to kind of get it right on the right side, or pick one side to really make sure you have the shape right and the curve, and then check it on the left side. So once it's been developed enough, like here, I don't know if I had it developed enough. I was really excited to get the curve, but I think that it's important, like with the circle, is that you build it up on the right side a bit more, and then I would build it onto the left. You could build it at the same time, but if you're still checking the curve, then you're going to waste time, because if you find, like for me here, I was wasting a lot of time working on the left side when the right side, the design on the right wasn't developed. So I had to keep going back and taking it out, because I realized the number of yarns weren't matching, or the curve was too far up, and I needed it to be a more gradual curve. One of the last tips that I have is using the circle template as a guide. So what I mean by this is fold the circle template into 4 and then use this to adjust the level of the weft yarns and make sure that it's centered and equal. So now that 1/4 has been finished, then just check your measurements. And as I did before, I wrote down the measurements that I had for each side. That way I could better manage it, and then start copying or mirroring this onto the other sides. And this should be so much easier. Oh my gosh. So yeah, you'll notice that it goes a lot more quicker. So I think the real hurdle is getting that first quarter, the first curved side. Get that side really, not perfect, but get it to the measurement that you want. And then the other sides will be so much easier. So much easier, and it goes so much faster. And but yeah, that first quarter, don't get discouraged if it takes you a little bit of time to get it to be what you want. But yeah, you can do it. It's really gratifying when the other half of the curve, half circle is created, and you can check it here with the template and it fits well. It's so rewarding. Yeah. Once you've made all the final adjustments and measurements for the circle, then go ahead and start mirroring the circle onto the other side. So we're looking at the other quarter and just follow the same pattern, but I'm just doing it backwards. So I'm just building it from before. Okay, so this looks good. I've just copied it here, and now I'm going to just finish this and then weave a few rows of plain weave just the top to finish the circle. So here we go. So again, here we have 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 more. And again, I'm just going to follow this inward. Here you're weaving a symmetrical shape. So you want to be checking to make sure from, the center that everything is lining up well. And yeah, they're all even and equal on each side. Okay, now I just want to start with a new yarn here. You can, if you have enough. I don't have enough and I don't want to use the small ends there. So just gonna go over here now that I've reached the 2 points, and hopefully it's nice and symmetrical. And then I'm going to go here and just weave a few rows of plain weave. I think you can have your shape, and then you just have to be careful. Like here I'm beating a little too hard, but you can see now it's really starting to get that circular kind of oval form. So I want to be careful how much I'm beating it down. I think maybe I've beat it down a little too much, but it's okay. It's all right. Now from here it's up to you how much more you want to beat down and what kind of shape you're trying to create. Again, I wouldn't recommend beating it too much down. Secure the plain weave and just move on to the next part. And there you have it, a nice, beautiful circle. Now, if you're curious what you could do with this now that it's open, you could fill this in with plain weave, or you could fill it in with a different texture or pattern. Could you imagine maybe if you put a twill weave in here? That would be pretty cool. Or maybe you use some raya knots and you fill this up with an explosion of colors and textures and stuff. That could be kind of cool. Or maybe you want to separate them in different sections and give it different colors or textures inside. There's lots of things to do. Or maybe you play with the negative space. Maybe you keep it like it is and you have smaller circles here, or on the warp you have like a line of circles, and maybe they have a pattern, different colors inside, and yeah, there's lots of different things that you could do with this. So this was a tutorial for weaving a circle on the loom, and I hope that you enjoyed it and it was helpful for you. And if it did, then please leave a like, and please subscribe for more weaving tutorials. And if you have any questions, then please leave them down below in the box. All right, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye.